Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the FAIRtax Guys. Is there a little bit of lag here between what you're saying and what
a little bit,
hear?
Yeah, obviously.
Oh, well, anyway.
We're still in COVID protocol.
Yeah, what happened is that I was tested a few days ago, and they said normally you get your results in a couple of days, but I have not gotten my result yet. So I can't say I'm still positive, but I can't say at this point that I'm negative. That has not been confirmed yet, although I'm about 99 and 44 100% sure that I'm over it all and I'm negative now without a problem. So I would think that next week's FAIRtax Power Radio, we can be back to our normal studio and I could look over and see what's on your paper and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
that's again, good. But Bear, and this is what we're going to try to do with Jade Wally when we do his next webinar. You're not even calling it a webinar anymore, are you? Whatever they're doing.
Well, it's not really a webinar, but Jade has so much expertise from a CPA's point of view that I'm not sure what we're going to call it, but we definitely need to do a show with him.
Yeah, so once a quarter we do the Jade Wally's FAIRtax World or whatever in place of a regular FAIRtax Power Radio episode. That'll be coming up near the end of January. We're going to do that. But so there's our little plug and promo for the week.
Okay. By the way, did you start your clock? Because I totally forgot again.
I am a professional broadcaster. Yes, I did. That is not a problem.
Good.
And I'll tell you what else I did.
Yeah.
I went over to, I looked up congress.gov since the last time we recorded.
Oh, yeah.
It looks kind of funny. The last time we recorded last week, when you put the string Internal Revenue Code into the search function there at the top of the page and look for just legislation in the current Congress, we got back 11 hits to start with. Now, today we get back 16. Which would seem to imply that 5 more bills have been introduced since the last time we looked at this. But if you look at it in the chronological order, date of introduction, newest to oldest, only 3 have been introduced since we last looked at it. So apparently there's some stuff that had been introduced earlier that didn't make last week's search. But real quickly, there are a couple of things that we need to look at. Now, as an old retired educator, you will appreciate this one, Ron. HR 306. This is a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to temporarily increase the educator expense deduction to facilitate the purchase of personal protective equipment and cleaning supplies during the COVID-19 pandemic. I guess that means teachers are supposed to buy their own PPE and their own cleaning supplies now.
Yeah.
Is that different from anything we've already known?
Yeah, that would probably fall under the category of employee business expenses.
Okay.
All
right. Moving along real quick. Go ahead.
It would just be much easier if we didn't have all this nonsense that, your income, your deductions, your allowable deductions, Form 2106, which is employee business expenses. I remember doing those when I was in education. But wouldn't it be so much easier if we just had the FAIRtax and we didn't have all these crazy deductions and forms and all these instructions and confusion?
Yeah, and some people get tax credits and breaks and others don't. That kind of leads us into the second one, HR 258, next on the list, introduced a couple of days earlier from our recording date here, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide a tax credit for expenses for household and elder care services necessary for gainful employment. Now, you tell me what that means, okay?
I looked at that and I'm trying to think, okay, so you want to go to work, but you're caring for your elderly mom or dad at home. And so they're trying to get some deductions for caring for your parents while you're trying to get to work. I guess that's what it is. It would just be a lot easier if we had a consumption tax and got rid of the income tax altogether.
Indeed. HR 257 next on the list. That was 258, 257, introduced by the same representative. This is Barbara Lee from California, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide the work opportunity tax credit with respect to the hiring of veterans in the field of renewable energy. And I went to the IRS's website and says, all right, exactly what is this work opportunity tax credit? And it says, quoting from the IRS site now, the work opportunity tax credit is a federal tax credit available to employers for hiring individuals from certain targeted groups who have consistently faced significant barriers to employment. So,
certain targeted groups.
So if you are in a targeted group and your employer will get a tax credit for hiring you, is that really what the founding fathers envisioned the tax code doing? Now, not that that's a bad idea to give people a break that might need it.
Yeah.
But why is this in the tax code? That's crazy.
And when you have the phrase certain targeted groups, that leaves itself wide open to political shenanigans,
Well, it lists the targeted groups: a qualified veteran, an ex-felon. They want people to hire ex-felons, summer youth employee. I'm not reading the whole list, just a piece of it. But if you get the SNAPS, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, I guess if you're on food stamps, you're part of the targeted group. Supplemental Security Income recipients, long-term family assistant recipient, and qualified long-term unemployment recipient. So those are the targeted groups that they are trying to get these employers to hire by offering them this work opportunity tax credit.
Yeah.
So again, why don't you just get rid of the whole thing, let businesses go unleashed? The economic growth that would be brought on by the fair tax would render all of this unnecessary. There would be so many jobs in the American economy that whether you're in a targeted group or not, you'd have to be hiding under a rock not to get one.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Everything would be so much easier and less expensive. All right. When you make it easier on business, you also make it less expensive. So that means the cost of their products and services drops. All right. And it's going to, the fair tax will boost the economy. All right. Create millions of jobs. But we've just got to get our Congress critters to do so. And we're going to address a little later in the program, we're going to address one congressperson in particular.
Oh, yeah. Well, I asked you this last week and I got a no, so I'm going to try again this week. You got a grassroots corner?
No, this was such a spur of the moment. You and I have both been busy all day. So I have apologized.
I'm 2 for 2.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't get one of Jim Bennett. What Bob is referring to is, if you've watched FAIRtax Power Radio before, Jim Bennett is the grassroots coordinator for the national group, the Americans for Fair Taxation. And he puts out a grassroots corner every week in which he usually spotlights a particular volunteer for the fair tax and what they're doing. But anyways, I encourage you to go to fairtax.org and sign up with your name and address, your contact information. You will not get spam when you sign up with the fair tax people, all right? But they can send you information, and the political media is the company that is now handling the database and the email blasts for the AFFT, the Americans for Fair Taxation. And they're starting to send out more. I was very pleased yesterday to see a subsequent email sent to the entire database across the whole country to encourage them to take a look at our episode 247, which was last week's episode. So they're making an effort. Yep, they're making an effort.
That's about the prebate.
Yep. And that was a good one. I mean, that's a very important episode if you want to explain to people why the fair tax is not regressive. That was a good one. Bob made a great PowerPoint. He did a great job of explaining that. That's an important episode, so I encourage. But anyways, getting back to the Grassroots Corner, you go to fairtax.org, you'll get the Grassroots Corner, you'll get Steve Hayes' chairman's report, and you'll get these updates for FAIRtax Power Radio, and you'll get some other updates, all right? I think PM, the company that's handling this, is going to do probably a fine job of getting the word out there, maybe better than we have in the past.
Okay, well, fair warning, I'm going to expect you to have a Grassroots Corner next episode here on FAIRtax Power Radio. Jim is actually ahead by 3 or 4 weeks. I get the scripts ahead of time so I can edit them and make the podcasts out of them. So we got some pretty good ones coming up. But we need to dig into the meat and potatoes of this edition's subject. And we found some fairly interesting articles, a lot of them from the Fox News and Fox Business site. And the first one I want to pull up here, this one scares me to death. The headline on it: return of a politicized IRS, question mark. They're asking if that's going to happen because the Democrats, who apparently are going to be in control of the presidency and both houses of Congress here shortly, they will be pushing to expand the tax agency. Quoting from the article here real quick, House Democrats are pushing for expanding the IRS with a $5.2 billion infusion of cash dedicated to enforcement activities.
Yeah.
So they want to beef up the IRS so they can go after more people, more audits, and that prompts concerns from folks who recall the tax collecting agency's politicized targeting of conservative groups during the Obama administration. So now, and it's funny, for the last 4 years, when the Republicans were at least had the White House, Democrats weren't that interested in beefing up the IRS. But now that they control who the IRS can go after, they want to throw $5.2 billion at that agency so they can go out and disregard the Bill of Rights and harass people.
Yeah, as long as we're stuck with an income tax, if the Democrats want to go after the massive tax gap, okay, the people who are not paying taxes that should be, yeah, I think they should. But if they want to target their political opponents, which did happen during the Obama administration, no, that's not what the IRS should be used for, okay? We have a horrible problem with evasion because of this income tax. And it's approaching $1 trillion a year of evasion. That's money that the IRS is not collecting because people are cheating, just very simply, all right? So
and it's the system lets them do it.
Yeah, it does, because it's just too hard. You got 140 million taxpayers. How can the IRS possibly keep up with all those? So, and another thing that I remember Steve Hayes making the point, you've got about 20% evasion, 20%, maybe a little more evasion. In fact, I remember Jade Wally saying it was closer to 25. But anyways, so that means about 80% of the taxpayers are 100% legal, and 20% of them are evading the tax, either a little bit or a lot, all right? So when the IRS goes after people, they're going to be auditing 80% of legal households, people that are paying attention. They're going to harass these people mercilessly, all right? But they're 100% legal. It's really hard to get after that 20%, especially if they've off the grid. So this is a bad idea. And it shows you how inefficient this tax code is.
Yeah, so some IRS people have admitted that they go after people who don't have the resources to defend themselves.
That's right.
Their guilt or innocence is kind of beside the point. If you can't defend yourself, we're going to come after you. Now, you may recognize the name Grover Norquist. He's the president of Americans for Tax Reform. Right. He was quoted in this article saying, and I'm quoting him here, "You'll see a tremendous politicization of the IRS during a Biden administration. There will be an effort to bulk up and harass first small businesses, and then they'll go after political groups. Democrats were not looking to throw money into the IRS when Trump was president, but they want to do it now." That's a quote from Grover Norquist.
Yeah,
that scares me. It really does.
It is, and I hope Grover is wrong. But we saw it during the Obama administration, and we could very well see it again during the Biden administration. It's not a good thing, and it's made possible by the income tax. Okay, so what we need to do, we got a new one.
Get rid of the income tax.
Yep.
Get rid of the income tax. Just chuck it out the window.
And defund the IRS because taxpayers matter. Okay.
You got you a new sign. It kind of disappeared into thin air, at least pieces of it. That's just a crazy function of the technology we're using.
But, we got this nice virtual background. So
you made you a little homemade sign that said that. Now a professional sign painter has got you one that says pretty much the same thing. Yep. How cool is that?
Got to thank Craig from Orlando for painting that sign for us. I went and we met halfway between Ocala and Orlando, and I picked this up. I was surprised at the size of this thing. It's very professionally done. It's really nice. So thanks, Craig. That's a nice sign.
Okay, real quickly before we leave this politicized IRS story, people that are celebrating the fact that the IRS is going to be going after their political opponents, oh yeah, weaponizing the IRS is fine if you use it against my enemies. But then again, what happens when it flips the other way around? If there is a politicized, weaponized IRS, eventually the shoe's going to flip and they're going to come after you. So it doesn't matter which side of the political aisle you're on, a politicized / weaponized IRS is a bad thing. It needs to go away. And as long as it exists and can be weaponized, it will be. So the only way to fix this is to pull it out by the roots, get rid of the IRS entirely, which means get rid of the income tax that it's charged with enforcing and administering, and just replace that whole mess with a fair tax.
Yep, absolutely. All right. And this article demonstrates one of the many problems with the income tax.
Okay, time is flying by. We got a couple other articles we want to get rid of. Go ahead, or get to touch on.
Okay.
And, let's go to the one about the gun store owner. That's really cool.
Okay. All right. Yep. All right.
Go for it.
Fox News, December 26th of last year. Georgia gun store owner elected to Congress takes aim at the IRS and firearms laws. Now, we're going to do the IRS portion. We're not going to talk about, he's also wanting to do something about firearms law. Anyways, Georgia Representative Andrew Clyde arrived at the nation's capital with the unique distinction of already having federal legislation named after him. Ooh, this sounds...
How cool is that? Now, this is a newly elected representative, right?
Yeah. I think this is his first term. Yeah. The gun store owner gained prominence for fighting back when the IRS suddenly seized $1 million from his bank account in 2013. Now, you know what we're talking about. Bob and I have talked about this on FAIRtax Power Radio before. Civil asset forfeiture, right? Laws that were created back in the 70s to fight crime. Unfortunately, the IRS doesn't fight as much crime as they should be. They keep going after perfectly legitimate business people. And that's what happened here. Not only did
they accused him of...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say they accused him of structuring again. Was that what they got him for?
Yep. Not only did Clyde win his civil asset forfeiture case against the IRS, now that was in 2013. It took years to do it. But he got Congress to pass a law last year so that the IRS could never do it again. Now, wait a minute. Okay. So they passed a law in the 70s for civil asset forfeiture that allows, if you make a transfer, deposit, withdrawal, transfer of $10,000 or more, it has to be reported to the IRS, and the bank does it automatically. However, Bob mentioned structuring. If you try to avoid that $10,000 limit by doing a few thousand at a time, then the IRS calls that structuring. Now, again, this was designed to go after illegal activities, okay, unlawful activities. It was not designed to go after a perfectly legitimate gun store owner or any store owner. But it has happened. You know, he is far from being the first person that they assumed was trying to get around this reporting requirement, which is intended to catch drug dealers and criminals that are dealing in vast amounts of cash. But then again, there are people, business owners most likely, that are dealing in fairly large sums of cash compared to most individuals. Sure, their business thing, and they have to put it someplace, especially if you're in a cash only business. That's right. As some of them have. And but the heck of this thing is they don't even bother to investigate to figure out what's going on. No, they see this pattern and they just automatically assume that somebody's guilty. The presumption of innocence goes right out the window with the IRS. They don't check it out. They come in, they take your money, they freeze your assets, and they ask questions later and make you spend much more money to defend yourself. They declare you guilty before they don't even actually accuse you of a crime.
They just say, you're doing this wrong and we're going to take your bank account as a result. Why do we have an agency that has that kind of power? We should get rid of it. Only way to get rid of it, get rid of the income tax, pass the fair tax. That's what we're all about here.
Yeah.
But that's really cool when somebody is like this has the power to come back and make life uncomfortable for somebody who was unfairly targeting him.
Well, I like a couple of comments here. His quote, that entire ordeal really showed me that one person who is persistent and tenacious and just doesn't give up can actually make a difference. Clyde, who's 57, told Fox News in the interview. Clyde, a Navy combat veteran and gun rights advocate, never intended to run for Congress, but his experience showed him that there is a thin line between we, the people, running the government and the government running the people. That's an important line there, okay? And that's what, that is the danger of the income tax, and that is what the fair tax alleviates. The fair tax puts people back in charge.
All right. Well, time's moving along. We got about 7 minutes left in the program. We got one more article we want to touch on. And this was, remember that President Trump got rid of, or at least suspended, collection of the payroll tax. Again, these are the taxes that come out of working people's paychecks that support Social Security and Medicare. We have mentioned time and time and time again here on FAIRtax Power Radio, those are the most regressive taxes on the books. There is no deduction. There's no standard deduction. You pay it from $1, and it doesn't matter if you make $50,000 a year, or $500,000 a year, or $5 million a year. You pay the same percentage. And if you saw last week's show about the prebate, then you know that that is the textbook definition of a regressive tax. But now we have a new administration coming in, and what's going to happen to the payroll tax? Do we know yet?
Well, and the thing is, this would have happened no matter who, which administration came in, because Trump as president does not have the authority to get rid of the payroll tax. He only had the authority to defer it. So this took effect. He did this in August. It took effect, I believe it says in September. Yeah, September 1 of 2020. But those people have to pay it back in this year, 2021. The Social Security tax and the Medicare tax. So I personally think that Trump had the idea, if he won a second term, to get rid of the payroll tax altogether, realizing that it's a very regressive tax and hurts the people that can least afford it. Well, that's not going to happen. So now all these folks that got this deferment are going to have to pay this back. It is a problem. He was trying to alleviate the situation in 2020 because of the pandemic, but now they got to pay it back. So this is going to be a huge problem for the Biden administration. And it would have been a huge problem for any administration, unless they did something really drastic, like get rid of the income tax and put in the fair tax.
Hey, that works. Of course, again, the Social Security and Medicare programs are, hurtling towards bankruptcy as they were. And then they cut off their funding sources for several months, September, October, November, December. I guess that's 4 months that they deferred doing these payroll taxes. So whatever would have fed those programs during those 4 months is not there. That makes it that much closer to bankruptcy. And what is really so crazy, these programs are depended on by so many different people, Social Security, Medicare, and the only people that are supporting them under the current system are people who are working for a paycheck. Payroll tax, that's the way they get it. If you make your money making millions of dollars selling commodities, or if you're trading stocks, or if you're in the real estate market, if you make your money any other way other than working for a paycheck, which is one of the lower grade, lower end ways to make money anyway. If you're going to make a lot of money, chances are real good you're not working for a paycheck. But the fair tax gets rid of those payroll taxes. A particular portion, it's in the bill exactly how much it is, a portion of general fair tax revenue is earmarked for Social Security and Medicare. So what the fair tax would do with regard to Social Security and Medicare, it would expand the tax base from people that are working for a paycheck to people whose retail spending exceeds the poverty level. That is a huge expansion. And what happens when the tax base gets expanded? Each individual's portion goes down.
That's right. Yep, that's right. When more people are paying, each person can pay a little less.
Go ahead.
So.
We've heard all the time people trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. Well, the fair tax gets rid of those payroll taxes, therefore those programs go away.
No.
How many times have we heard that?
No. Yeah.
So don't let anybody fool you with that. What the fair tax does is actually puts the program on much firmer financial footing than it used to be. And we got about 2.5 minutes left to go for our call to action. So again, appreciate everybody listening to FairtaX Power Radio. And if you think that the idea of getting rid of the payroll tax, if you think the idea of getting rid of the income tax, with it, withholding goes away, income tax returns go away, the IRS goes away, civil asset forfeiture goes away, all those nasty things will go away if we can get rid of the income tax, replace it with a fair tax. And if you'd like to see that happen, how about helping us out? Join AFFT 1040 Club if you can.
Yep. And you can join your state organization too. I mean, get on fairtax.org and there's a drop-down tab that'll take you to the state organizations. Find out who it is, near you and get involved. You don't have to run for Congress to make a difference.
But I think one of the things that we're going to be somewhat stymied with a new Democrat-controlled administration and Congress coming in, it's going to be harder to get the fair tax through at the national level. So we're going to be shifting our focus to doing what Alabama and Georgia are doing, trying to get a state-level fair tax passed and see how well that works. And then when that shows how well that works at the state level, then the momentum to do it at the federal level can be regained.
Yep. Okay. And let's remind them about PopVox. Since this is a brand new Congress, the 117th, you have to go back onto PopVox and reaffirm your support for the HR 25. It has been filed. It is in there. So go on to PopVox, log in. If you have not subscribed to PopVox, give it your name and address, and then you can go follow HR 25 and tell them you're in support of it.
Okay, we encourage people to share these videos from the social media platforms. The FAIRtaxGuys.com, that is the repository if you'd like to go back and look at some of the other previous programs, especially if you're listening on a podcast or a radio station, you want to go back and see the video of that, you can do that. The FAIRtaxGuys@gmail.com is our email address if you've got a question or a comment, or you can leave a question or a comment on our Facebook page or one of our YouTube videos. But that is going to wrap up this edition of FairtaX Power Radio. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
The FairtaX Guys reminding you the fair tax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
There you go. See you next week. Hello, I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the FairtaX Guys. Coming at you from so many different directions, you're going to have to get hit by one of them.
Well, here's what he means by that, okay? FairtaX Power Radio can be found on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Parler, Gab, Instagram, Periscope. Where else?
And if you've got the online podcast, it's Spreaker, iHeartRadio. We're on Facebook Live every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. We've got a YouTube channel, Apple Podcast. And we are on, at the moment, 3 terrestrial radio stations. WTOB in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, WLSC in Laura, South Carolina, and WAME in Statesville. So if you live in any of those areas, you can listen over the air. All 3 of those places stream online, so you can catch us on Sunday morning on the radio stations as well.
And let's not forget our website, FairtaxGuys.com. So plenty of places to find us.
All right. And until we meet again, reminding you that the fair tax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it.